Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Tea with Nicque, which I haven't done in a very long time because I've been very busy, but I'm really glad to be back. Today I'm going to do something that I've wanted to talk about for a really long time, which I feel like I say in every single one of my videos, but I really do mean this. First of all, the tea I'm drinking today is yerba mate, which is a tea indigenous to Central and South America. It's very big in indigenous culture. I love it very much. It actually is almost more effective than coffee as far as keeping you awake, keeps you very alert, and it just doesn't have all the same chemicals as coffee in it, so I like it very much. I like using it with some honey and cinnamon, and that's what I'm having today. But anyway, today I'm talking about things that don't necessarily need to be fucking discussed or debated. I think in this age of social media, especially in these political times, people feel like we need to answer to everything. And there are some that I feel like purposefully put themselves in situations where they argue and conversate with toxic people because of that idea that we should not lock ourselves in an echo chamber. Like, we need to make sure that we are engaging with people with different viewpoints than us in order for us to learn and to grow and then hopefully help them grow, which to a point is very true. But for me, I think that there are some things that are not worth discussion, mostly because of my mental health. And for this example, I am going to really focus on the Black Lives Matter movement. After Ahmaud Arbery was shot, after George Floyd was killed, the Black Lives Matter movement started up very strong again. And by then I had garnered quite a large following on TikTok. And when you become a figure on TikTok, people expect you to speak on these, important issues. When you become well known at any point, a celebrity, which I don't really consider myself to be. If I am, it's probably D-list, DC-list, but people expect you to talk about that. They lean on you for it, honestly. It's almost like a civic duty, and then if you don't, then you are bullied even, and you are labeled as not down for the cause. I think Elizabeth Olsen was one of those people that was bullied off of social media, I believe, not related to Black Lives Matter, but because after Chadwick Boseman passed away, she didn't post immediately after his death, which you don't know what someone's going through. She may have been going through her own grieving process, but she completely, I believe, deleted her entire social media because she was sick of that bullying. And so it was kind of the same thing with me. Not that I was bullied very much for it, but I had to come forth in a live stream and let people know that, look, I understand that this is obviously a very big issue, and obviously I'm an African American woman, so of course this is hitting very hard, but that does not obligate me to talk about it in public in order to preserve my own mental health. Because what a lot of people didn't know at the time, but a lot of people do know, is that a lot of my trauma and a lot of my PTSD stems from issues that happened to me in the past in the Air Force because I am a Black woman. It happened to other Black women within my unit by the same fucking bitch, and it is still impacting my life today. I suffer every fucking day because of it. And speaking out on social media is not, it's not worth re-traumatizing myself, because yes, I am a performer, and now I have an audience that I feel like I have a responsibility to communicate with and to voice my opinions on certain important things. However, my mental health comes first, always. And especially because ever since Ahmaud Arbery was shot, I have had a very hard time going out to go running in my neighborhood, because ever since all that started happening, the police started coming out into my very gentrified neighborhood a lot more often, and it made me very scared. And I'm a cross-country runner. I can run for days. I lettered in high school. I've always been a very good runner. And I've never been too far off from my 6 or 7 minute mile. But after just one lap around the block, I started having a panic attack and couldn't breathe. So I had to go home. I had to almost crawl home because the pain was so excruciating that I could not continue. So, and which brings me back to things like this. I obviously speak out about Black Lives Matter. I speak out about racial injustice, especially as a political science major, as a military veteran who has seen these things in the military. I have straight up seen white supremacy and had to walk around white supremacy in my own office, dealing with people that I outrank and listening to them say these things during Trump's presidency that I can't say anything about, because I never felt protected as a Black woman, and I still don't. But as far as arguing with people about the validity of this movement, about Black Lives Matter, like, yes, there are some people that take it too far. Like, yes, they are like, oh my gosh, like, yes, there are people that turn this, for them, the movement, into a hateful thing, but it is not a hateful movement. Black Lives Matter is not, it should not be an offensive thing. It's not. It's a proclamation that our lives matter, because historically our lives haven't. Historically, it's a fact. And so, and to engage with somebody in a conversation, trying to convince them that Black Lives Matter, that that's a valid thing, is synonymous with trying to convince them that I am a valid human being, to convince them that my experience as a Black woman is valid and not a lie, which is completely manipulative, abusive, and gaslighting. And at this point in my life, especially as a PTSD veteran, I am not willing to subject myself to that. I think there's a lot of conversations like that we don't need to subject ourselves to that anymore, because the fact stands that there is a lot of injustice in this country regarding race relations. Black people are at the bottom. Black LGBTQ people are at the bottom. Dark-skinned Black LGBTQ people are at the bottom, and anyone that denies that is either willfully doing it because they don't want to believe that the world is as bad as it is, which I'm maybe a little forgiving of that, because you are choosing to be ignorant because of discomfort, but it still makes you responsible. And then of course there are people that are dead set on disregarding it because they don't want equality. And my time is not worth being spent on this people. My time is worth being spent conversating with people who want to make a change. Maybe we disagree on the methods on how we do it. Like, maybe we are at odds on how to go about executing that plan, but those are the people that I am willing to spend my energy on. But as far as like arguing with people on the internet, making dumbass comments, making dumbass remarks, like straight up calling me or calling other people the N-word, you're not worth my time. That's not worth my time. It's not worth responding to. I especially don't like to do it on TikTok, especially in the video responses, because every time you do that, you blast their username and you get them publicity. And in the world of entertainment, any publicity is good publicity. So either way, you're giving them recognition, and they don't deserve that. Not on my platform. I don't need to validate my trauma. I believe that all Black people have trauma. I believe that at some level, all or most people of color in general have trauma from what they've experienced from racism throughout their entire lives. And having to validate that trauma to people that have never experienced it, when they don't believe you the first time, when you just say that, hey, I have been through this, that is abusive. That's completely abusive. It's abusive for people to bring it up out of the blue, even when you don't mention it, and express, I guess, frustration with having to recognize equality. I don't engage in that, because I'm gonna be honest, it hurts my feelings. It not only hurts my feelings, it hurts my soul, because everything that I have been, so many of the things that I've been through in my life it obviously, as a woman of color, has shown me that it is indeed real, and I don't need to prove that to you. I don't, like I said, don't argue with the racists. I don't argue with centrists, particularly white centrists, because they have the privilege to be able to ignore things, to be able to see both sides of the story, which I am also very able to see both sides of the story as far as individuals go, as far as people's perspectives. And I'm usually, depending on my energy level, more than happy to answer people's questions about the issue, about my experience, as long as they are respectful when I don't want to talk about it for some reason, because some days I am more triggered and anxious than others, and sometimes I don't want to talk about it, but sometimes I'm welcoming. No one has the obligation to do either of those, but it's all up to you. And also because even though obviously in the Black Lives Matter movement, like, you know, people of color and, you know, the African American community is at the forefront of this, it is not our ancestral curse to break. Institutionalized and systemic racism is not our ancestral curse. It's theirs. It's white people. It's people of European descent. Whether their ancestors owned slaves or not, the sooner they realize that they do benefit from this system where light-skinned people with certain features are automatically favored, which is by no fault of their own, but the system has been built that way. That is their curse to break. That is their generational curse to break. And honestly, it's their turn, because the energy that we have left, I don't think should be solely towards civil rights. I think it really needs to be directed more inwards and directed towards healing ourselves as people, because our generational curses, even though we can argue they came from white supremacy as well, have kept us from living a healthy life within our culture. It's kept us from seeking mental health when we need it. It's kept us from protecting our Black women. It's kept us from holding our Black men accountable within our culture. It's kept us from, you know, like actually you're calling people out within our culture that are doing wrong because we're afraid to go outside of that. It comes from, it deals with women still being very fucking submissive and treated as submissive and as a second-class citizens within our culture. We have so many problems that are our responsibility to change because they came from our past generations. They came from our parents, from our grandparents, from our great-grandparents, probably tactics that were needed to survive back then, but now that we're in the year 2020 and we are trying to thrive and not survive, that should be our goal. But as far as systemic racism, it is honestly, it is not solely our responsibility, even though we are out there on the front lines. So in closing, basically, these are things that I don't actively engage in conversations or more so arguments with people about it, because every time I do, it means that I have to justify my existence on this earth. It means that I have to vilify my value as a human being, and that is degrading. It is traumatic. And as me who already has a trauma disorder, an anxiety disorder myself, I know that I can't do it. And so if you ever see a lack of that kind of content on my TikTok, that is very much why, which I have explained before. It's very much why I'm looking out for my own mental health. And when I do have the energy to talk about it, I absolutely do. And definitely in my private spaces, we have those conversations as well, as long as the other person is respectful and chooses not to center the entire thing around themselves. People really need to be willing to listen, because we are dying to be able to tell our story. We are dying for people to be able to have empathy for us, because the history books show, anthropology shows, studies show that we have gone through it and we are still going through it. And anyone that chooses to ignore that for the sake of their comfort is damaging and hurtful. And I choose to not engage with those people unless they are willing to be open. I have no problem, you know, you know, answering challenging questions? Absolutely. Because just like they say in Star Wars, only a Sith deals in absolutes, and I completely get that as a political science major, but at the same time, I need to protect my energy and I need to protect my own mental health. And that's that. People can be mad at it. People get me bad about it all they want. I really don't fucking care. But that's the example that I set, and so far it's working, but I'm sure as I get more and more public, this may be something that I can't run from too much more, but for now, I am protecting my energy as much as I can. So, that was today's episode of The Tea with Nicque. If there's anything else that you'd like me to talk about, drop it in the comments. Please make sure to follow me on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, and Twitter. They're all at Nicque Marina. I very often put on feelers on my Instagram story asking people what they want me to talk about on The Tea. So please keep a watch out for that and let me know what you would like me to talk about. I do have a few do have a few things lined up, and they have to do with Disney movies. Oh my God. By demand, by some other fans. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was enlightening, and I hope that this helped somebody or educated somebody. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.